Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Stephen Holliday. I'm the chair of the Etobicoke Yore Community Council. We have quorum. I'm now calling meeting 13 to order. Welcome, everyone. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at the Etobicoke Civic Centre in the council chamber. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Although we may be meeting in different locations today, Community Council would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. If you are registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I'll remind anyone that is here visiting with us in the chamber, if you haven't registered to speak and you have an item of concern on this agenda, please see the clerk at the back of the room and get your name on the list. I will call the speakers in the order they appear in the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Etobicoke York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Members, the city clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on the CMP, the clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. I also want to remind you to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at etcc@toronto.ca to help with motions. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, thank you so much, Madam Speaker. It would be allergy season. If you do have an interest, please indicate the item number and the nature of the interest. Seeing none, we will proceed. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meeting on April 8th, 2024? Councillor Nunziata moves. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. We will now go through the items. Our first item is EY 13.1, 135 Plunkett Road, zoning amendment application decision report for approval. We have speakers, so that will be held. EY 13.2, 2636 to 2654 Eglinton Avenue West, and 1856 and 1856A Keele Street zoning bylaw amendment and site plan control applications appeal report. That would be Councillor Nunziata.
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.3, 417 to 419 Burnhamthorpe Road, zoning bylaw amendment and site plan control applications appeal report. I'll move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.4, 28 Jopling Avenue South, residential demolition application. Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll approve the staff recommendations to demolish the vacant residential building with conditions. Clerk should have the conditions there. So, of course, to include construction fences be erected, all debris and rubble be removed immediately after demolition, and that sod be laid on the site be maintained and free of garbage, weeds, and in accordance with all of our bylaws. So, and of course, any holes be backfilled and clean filled. That's my motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Morley moves demolition with conditions as laid out. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. EY 13.5, 21 Murrie Street, application to remove a city tree. We have speakers, so that item will be held. EY 13.6, 31 Clearside Place, application to remove a private tree. We have a speaker, and so that item will be held. EY 13.7, 58 Tallon Road, application to remove 2 private trees. I'm just going to ask Madam Clerk, do we have a speaker registered? It's a bit puzzling. All right, I'm going to hold that down. We'll deal with that. We can hold it in my name. It'd be fine. EY 13.8, 301 Rockcliffe Court, 20 Rockcliffe Court as well. Request for a fence exemption to the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 447. We have speakers for that, so that will be held. EY 13.9, permanent closure of portions of Bloor Street West, Dundas Street West, and Kipling Avenue. Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a sort of technical cleanup exercise. The lands are being closed presently officially public highway, but are no longer being used that way. So there's no impact on current roads. Just want to reassure residents watching. So we're looking to follow staff recs on this one.
Deputy Mayor Morley moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.10, all-way stop control, Silverstone Drive and Lexington Avenue South at the south intersection. Councillor Crisanti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move staff recommendations.
Councillor Crisanti moves staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.11, Bala Avenue traffic calming, speed humps. Councillor Nunziata.
Move staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.12, Hay Avenue traffic calming, speed humps. Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following staff recommendations.
Deputy Mayor Morley moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.13, Paramount Court traffic calming, speed humps. Councillor Nunziata.
Move staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.14, U-turn prohibition, Aukland Roads and St. Albans Road. Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll be moving staff recommendations on this item.
Deputy Mayor Morley moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.15, Yore Road on-street accessible loading zone. Councillor Nunziata.
Move staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 13.16, appointment of public members to the George Bell Arena Board. Councillor Nunziata.
Move staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. Madam Clerk, I'll check. I know there's an item to be added. Do we have that ready? So we will get to that a little bit later in the meeting then. Thank you. Okay, back up to the top of the list. We have speakers for EY 13.1, which is 135 Plunkett Road, zoning amendment application decision report. Speakers, the first speaker we have is Grant Evers from the Humber Summit Residents Association. Do we have Grant in the room? Great. Welcome, Grant. Come on up to the front here, please. Welcome to the Community Council. You've got 5 minutes. Please begin as soon as you're ready.
Thank you.
Oh, if you just hang on a sec, we just going to make sure your microphone's on. The red light is shows all the time.
Good morning.
Much better. Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
right ahead, Grant.
Good morning, Council. It's a pleasure to return to Council. This is my second or third time I've been here. This particular, before I actually proceed, I wanted to thank Ms. Thomas, who was instrumental in helping me with a technical issue I had as I tried to submit part of this application. This application is for 135 Plunkett Road. It's a redevelopment, an infill site. It's a former school site. The school was demolished some years ago due to declining enrollment. That the school site is important to the community. And so what happens now that the school is gone, it remains important. My wife, who actually is with me here today, she taught at the school. The gentlemen who are to my left behind me, they were instrumental in building this community. And the school is very important to them. So important to them that the Park Costa Road was actually looked after by these gentlemen. So that was important. If I could ask you to take a look at the slides. I think you have access to them. How do we project the slides? You can't? Okay. First of all,
I'll let you know, Mr. Evers, the slides were circulated to members of council.
right, so you
I think
can...
we can see them online as well, but I know
Okay,
I've got them.
that's fine. This particular application is phase 2 of the redevelopment. Phase 1 was completed, or is almost completed. One of the slides shows that although there are going to be 2 public streets, the proponent has blocked off the streets. They're not public yet, I guess, because they perhaps haven't finished, because the public doesn't have access to them. That'll be important for another reason I'll speak to in a moment. The reason why I came here in 2018 was because of an application that I wanted to support the planning department on. The planning department had refused an application, but the previous councillor for our area had supported it. To make a long story short, I opposed that the motion to try to maintain it, this application. And the reason why I did was because there were too many units on too small a property. And that was the issue that went to City Council on. And the City Council ended up agreeing with a residents association. If I can draw your attention to, if you have the slides, slide 9. The site of Muir and Islington Avenue was an infill site too. It consisted of 2.42 acres. And it's on an arterial road. Well, it made sense, if you're going to have intensification, it made sense to have intensification on that site because it was an arterial road. This particular application, 135 Plunkett, is a residential street. And the numbers, I think, are quite telling. The Islington Muir site was 2.42 acres. This new site is 1.85% acres. So it's about 25% less. When the motion came up in 2018 for Muir, 60 units were trying to be pushed through. I came before council and said that was too many. And eventually, going to the Ontario Land Tribunal, they agreed too that it was too many. And this site, as they say, is on a residential street. They don't want to put on 60 units. They want to put in 146 stack units. In fact, they came in at 151 and generously decided to decrease it by 5. They want to have 4 stories because apparently 4 stories are possible in a neighborhood section, a neighborhood area, a zoning neighborhood. But I suggest to you, if this was an apartment neighborhood, would the maximum number of apartment floors be advisable? Would it be possible in an apartment neighborhood to put up a building of 100 stories? I suggest here that although 4 might be the maximum number of floors that would be allowed, I don't think 4 is appropriate for this neighborhood. This is entirely a neighborhood of semi-detached houses. So that is really the principal issue, that it is far too big for this particular residential site. And I think the neighborhood would be poorer for it.
Thank you, Mr. Evers.
Thank you.
Are there questions of the speaker? I may just ask one. Pass the chair to the vice chair. Please go ahead. Mr. Evers, in the slides, you caught my attention because there's Ward 2.
Yes.
And you picked out John G. Aldhouse and St. George's Public Schools.
Yes.
I wondered if you could deliver the point that you were trying to make about
Okay,
this.
the point, I didn't describe it, but
Okay.
yes, the point was that that area, which is, I know is in your particular area,
Yep.
is a neighborhood section. So could you imagine if John G. Aldhouse or St. George's Elementary School suffered a declining enrollment and were demolished? Would you want to see, and would you recommend seeing a building that will now tower over the existing structures. All of these homes in the area have slanted roofs. So that suggests in the zoning that they would have a height of a maximum of 8.8, I think it is, meters. This particular application, the height is going to be 14.5 meters. So it's way over. So, we could support it if it was on Islington Avenue, because it's an arterial road. But it's a residential street. So that's our concern. So I say I don't think it will be supported anywhere else. And I think, Humber Summit is one of the city-designated neighborhood improvement areas. And I think it needs to be respected. And the people who live in the neighborhood, I think, need to be respected.
So I'll ask you the follow-up question.
Yes.
Are you aware on this map of the Kipling Grove school site?
I'm sorry, the Kipling?
The Kipling Grove, and I'll tell you, it's a trick question because
Which one?
You can't see it anymore because you know what's there? 2 streets of detached homes. So would you be aware of a very, very similar context to what you're presenting us today, and to the point that you're making? There's an infill development shown on this in the last 10 years that infilled the school site with detached homes.
Was detached. I'm sorry,
Detached.
which image is that?
It's called would you be aware that it's the Kipling Grove school site?
Okay, yes.
So you could, if I think I captured the point that you're making,
Right.
I would just say if you're aware that you could point out to a very similar context of what you're speaking to.
And they're detached,
And the result was detached homes.
not 4-story stacked houses.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Evers? Seeing none, thank you for joining us.
I guess there's one other thing, if you don't mind me adding. I just think it needs to be revisited. We're not against, this isn't NIMBYism. We're not against redevelopment, but we are thinking that this proposal needs some revisiting.
Thank you, Mr. Evers. Our next speaker is Mishi McCloskey from Sejeki Planning. Welcome to the Etobicoke Yore Community Council. You have 5 minutes. Please.
Good morning. So I don't intend to take the full 5 minutes. I'm mostly here just to represent the applicant and to answer any questions that come up from council or the community. So thank you, Grant, for coming up and sharing your thoughts. Just wanted to mention that, this is a former school site, as mentioned. The proposed infill development is a phase two of 2 proposed development for 146 units, as mentioned. That has come down slightly due to the fact that we've increased the number of family size units. So initially we had proposed three family size units, being 3-bedroom, and that's increased now to a total of 18. So we work with city staff. That was a concern raised at the community consultation meeting back in March. So we did increase that to equal a total of 12% 3-bedroom units. And that was, that's the reason for the slight increase in FSI, the decrease in overall number of units. But we do think that provides a really important benefit from both a community standpoint and planning standpoint. We have proposed to keep the same parking standards, even though, there is the decrease in units. It's 0.96 spaces, residential parking spaces per unit, and 0.12 visitor spaces per unit. So we will intend to keep that. We actually exceed the amenity area ratio. It's 4.0 meters squared per unit. We're actually slightly above that, and we intend to meet that moving forward. And we do have an overall soft landscape area of 58% minimum. So I can come back up a bit later if there's any specific questions, but just wanted to make sure that we were here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCloskey. Are there any questions of the speaker? Councilor Nunziata?
So this is phase 2,
Correct.
right? So originally, what was the proposal for the phase 2?
So originally, it was a different built form, singles and semis. I myself was not part of that phase, so we do see it as a brand new application. I know that the first phase was, it's almost occupied, about 50% occupied at this stage. But yeah, it was initially semi-detached. However, that was several years ago. We believe that it's a different policy context. It was a housing type that is not necessarily attainable from an affordability standpoint. And we believe that by adding this mix of units, smaller units, greater variety, that it does provide for a more attainable unit in this day and age.
So originally, with that phase 2, what you proposed was presented to the public.
Correct.
Now you're coming back, and this proposal you haven't had a public meeting on this one.
So our community consultation meeting for the new phase 2, we'll call it, was back in March. So we did go out to a local school with Councillor Prusa and city planning staff and presented the quote unquote revised, but it is a brand new application. Again, totally different team. We're a new planner on the file as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Councillor
Sorry,
Crisconti?
just to clarify what I just heard. So I heard you say this is phase 2.
Correct.
Is phase 1 what you described earlier, a larger footprint, more units, and you went back to the drawing board and came back with a whole new concept?
So phase 1 is more or less built and being occupied, and those are semi-detached units, semi-detached dwellings. Phase 2.
Where is the phase 1?
So it's on the east side of the site.
The east side, okay.
Yeah. And then we're on the west side off of Plunkett. And initially, so an application came forward several years ago for the phase 2 with singles and semis. However, and it was approved, but those conditions were never fulfilled. So now we've come back with a brand new application for a more intense, infill built form, being the stacked towns. And we've worked pretty closely with city staff since August 2022 to refine that concept. Initially, for instance, it was 4 blocks. We changed it into 6 to create more mid-block connections. We removed all of the patio units, lower patio units off of Plunkett to really make a more active street front. All the parking is underground. There's also a loading space that's tucked into the building. That was important to, again, urban design staff to make sure that that it remained a really pedestrian-friendly, I guess, looking down Plunkett, down Antonio Court, all around. So that's been tucked into the building beside the underground garage access as well. So yeah, we have gone through a number of iterations, but we do feel that the current proposal is one that we can support and represents good planning.
And you already took this current proposal to a public meeting?
Correct.
And what were the results of that public meeting? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So we had, it was well attended. We had a lot of residents come out. I think that they've experienced, this is an area that hasn't experienced a lot of change. But it's one that we need to recognize that, with changing policy, the fact that it was a former school site and there is an opportunity for redevelopment and to provide for a housing type that would, allow for a variety of different people with different needs to come into this neighborhood. I think that's something that's really important that we need to really focus on. There are challenges with selling singles and semis in this day and age from a marketability standpoint, from affordability standpoint. And that's something that we've worked to incorporate into this development. Again, as mentioned, increasing from three-bedroom units to 18, and that was done in a matter of weeks. We kind of went back to the drawing board and didn't change much overall, but we did feel that was a really important benefit, to add for those family size units. So, I recognize change is hard and it's happening all across our city, but We've also done things like maintained a 6-meter separation to the north of the site, along with step backs on the mezzanine level. So it actually does appear as a 3-story development, even though it does say 4 stories. And there's also a partial basement as well. So it's, you're getting a mezzanine on the top and then a partial basement. And again, breaking up that block further to allow for connections throughout. There's plenty of bicycle parking, tri-sorter units, at grade in the middle courtyard. It's a as far as the look, we know it's a more modern built form architecturally, and that's something we can work with the councillor and staff as we move forward. If we were move forward to the site plan stage, materiality, color, and things like that, we'd be happy to work with the residents on that.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll just check, are there any other speakers registered? No. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? Over there. Yep. Would you like to speak to the item? Okay. Could we just get your name for the clerks? Come on up, please. Okay, great. Welcome to the Etobicoke Yore Community Council. If you could just give us your name and know that you have 5 minutes to speak to the council. Thank you. Just make sure we've got your microphone working there.
Hello.
Very good. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Marcello Simeoni, and I am a resident of the Humber Summit community and also a member of the Humber Summit Residents Association. I am here today to make a few points on the proposed development application at 135 Plunkett Road. My first point is that of overcrowding. I would like to use as an example the overcrowding of a car. In Ontario, it is illegal to overcrowd the seating capacity of a vehicle under the Highway Traffic Act. So why would the City of Toronto allow overcrowding of a residential area which will be permanent and life-altering to the residents of the community? Secondly, a large building holding 146 units versus the initial proposal of 17 semis will impede the flow of wind and airflow which purge heat and pollutants from the subdivision. In this instance, heat will remain in the center of the subdivision and not escape as quickly, being further absorbed by the structures, and thus overloading AC units, which is controversial to the Climate Action Plan. Also, pollutants which would normally be purged through the side yards of a subdivision with 100% semis will remain longer in the center of the subdivision. This is called a valley effect, where noxious fumes from cars, furnaces, sewers, lawn equipment, and barbecues linger longer and are inhaled by the community. Other issues facing this development are major traffic congestion at Millwick and Islington during most of the day. This will only get worse with 4 times more units proposed, multiplied by at least a factor of 2 cars per unit. With an increase of 4 times the units versus the initial phase 2, other issues such as noise pollution and diminished privacy, as well as proximity to accessible transit, are sure to cause poor quality of life. By the way, transit will be no less than 400 meters away. Imagine this during the winter. Other issues that dim the viability of this new proposal are no school in the immediate vicinity, a larger amount of garbage containers times 4, and due to the builder not being bound to provide 100% parking spots, cars will spill onto roads during winter and impede snow removal. The final issue I see is that of drainage. December 3rd, 2016, the City of Toronto mandated all rainwater downspouts be disconnected so that rainwater would not overload city sewers and would alternatively be absorbed by residential lawns. The proposed building of 146 units versus the 17 semis from the previous expired application will force water to be channeled to city sewers and not be absorbed into lawns and gardens as the city mandated. Although the province is mandating more housing, there must be a more viable and creative way to give people and neighboring residents a better solution. In my opinion, it is possible to put a square into a circle, but the end result is not a pleasing product, but a compromise. On behalf of the Residents Association and our community, I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak. Hopefully, some of these points I have made have been productive and open up the minds of city planners and city councilors. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today. I'll do one final check. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will then. So, Ms. McCloskey, you've already spoken. Is there something did you need to bring something to the attention of the community council? So unfortunately, our process doesn't allow for rebuttal. What I can advise you is that if you did want to submit comments in writing, you can do that today, even after the item is closed. We'll still have the letter on file and members of council will have access to it. Okay. So questions of staff on this particular item? Yeah. No? Councillor Crisanti has questions of staff. Go ahead, Councillor.
Well, maybe we'd just start off by having staff explain a little bit of history here on this property, on any previous application, where we're at now. How do we come to this application? And did the staff also attend that public meeting? Who can answer that? Not Max.
Through you,
They're just
Mr.
trees.
Chair, maybe I could start and perhaps
Sorry.
he
hi,
is
Mike.
there in, or
Yeah.
Laura Lee Tulloch, the planner, could add to this. The current application came in early March, I think March 4th. So it's subject to Bill 109 timelines. It's only requiring a zoning bylaw amendment, which means if we're to meet the timelines without the liability of a possible refund, a decision must be made by council within 90 days. So that drives a relatively quick process. Mm-hmm. And I think one or two of the deputants did say there was a community consultation meeting that occurred in late March, as soon as within a few weeks of receiving the actual application. There were a number of people in attendance in opposition. I can add, and it's in the report, that we also had letters with signatures for support for the application too. So I can't get into the history without drawing on perhaps Laura Lee or Ohi for prior to this application, but it's a new application that came in March.
All right. Thank you. Anything more to add? Ohi, you good?
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions?
no.
Sorry,
I think Ohi wanted to.
did you have additional comments? We're okay? All right.
We're okay? That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, members of the Community Council wishing to speak? To speak? Councillor Perruzza.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I have a motion, which I hope the clerk puts on the board. I've sent it around to you as well. So, and which is self-explanatory in a sense, and basically I'm asking that this application be refused by this community council. So, Mr. Chair, just and you've all heard this. This is not new. This is a neighborhood made up of crescents, cul-de-sacs, and courts. It's a neighborhood that contains mostly low-rise bungalows with some back splits, without exception. That's what the neighborhood looks like. All of the residences, as you know, and many of them in your own neighborhoods, they all contain a front yard, a backyard. There's a look to the neighborhood. There's a feel to the neighborhood. And quite frankly, we have an application in front of us today which has some history and which has 2 iterations to it. It was a school site. The school site came in for redevelopment. Came in here in 2 phases. The first phase of which is nearly complete, and it consists of basically single family houses. Again, on residential type lots, very similar to what exists in the area now. There's a front yard, there's a backyard, there's a look, there's a feel, there's a fit. This second block, in its first iteration, came in as a series of semi-detached, mostly one-story type houses. Again, very similar to what exists in the neighborhood. Low-rise, front yard, rear yard, again on an interior residential street, very similar to streets in your neighborhoods as well. And I understand that we have in front of us a considerable dilemma. On one hand, there's a pressure to increase housing supply across the city. On the other hand, there are some neighborhoods which I don't believe, and types of neighborhoods which I don't believe that we need, or rather where this type of intensification is useful or beneficial. We are not going to be running TTC buses down crescents, cul-de-sacs, or courts anytime soon. That's just not going to happen. And quite frankly, we're introducing a form of housing which is super expensive to build and to buy. Why? Because it has underground parking. Your low-rise residential neighborhoods don't have buried driveways and parking garages underneath the homes themselves. That's expensive to build. And it's expensive to build on top of that and then to buy. So while an argument can be made for a smaller, more affordable product, the product itself is actually counterintuitive to that because it's more expensive. And what it also does is it drives up the value of the surrounding low-rise residential housing. Because you bring in a form of intensification where, someone can buy up 2-3 lots and then build it out extensively. And quite frankly, I don't think that's a fit that we support. I don't believe that. I don't believe that when we considered the city's housing policies and housing intensification policy, we ever envisioned that this is what would be the byproduct of that. That where you have low-rise residential neighborhoods, and this is not a problem with this applicant or the application. I understand it. I get it. I understand that they have an opportunity here so Mr. Chair, that's the motion that we have in front of us, and I think that this is a conversation that we as a city council need to have and need to be clear about because, as I said, it's not the applicant or the application. I think this is a city planning policy matter that we need to weigh in on and clarify. And if this is the road, sure, I'll end it there.
Thank you, Councillor Perruzza. Anyone else wishing to speak to this item? Okay, on the councillor's amendment, I'm just going to check with the clerk. It's a single vote. to amend with replace. All those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? That item carries. Thank you. That item is complete. Our next item is EY 13.5, 21 Murrie Street. We have speakers registered for this item. Our first speaker is Leila Agabani from Midnight Group. Good morning, Leila.
Hello.
Welcome to the Etobicoke York Community Council.
Good morning.
You have 5 minutes to speak. Please begin when you're ready.
All right, thank you for giving me the chance. So I just want to give like a brief intro about the situation we're in. We're proposing a new development in 21 Murrie, and we have a tree with a diameter of 147 centimeters, creating like the tree protection zone spans over 8.3 meters, and the lot frontage is around 10 meters. So that's impacting the entire lot frontage of our property. So we've been trying, in collaboration with Urban Forestry, to explore various proposals to secure secure their approval in injuring that tree or removing that tree. However, we gave many proposals and none of them were to their satisfaction. Like we changed the driveway, we have many proposals like curved driveway, we pushed the house back. None of these proposals were into the Urban Forestry satisfaction. And we spent over a couple of months with the Urban Forestry with lots of back and forth emails, and nothing was acceptable. And the Urban Forestry expressed their concern in removing that tree. There is a massive limb on that tree, was shared with the staff, with the counselor and her staff. That limb cannot be pruned, which puts us in a tight position, like we cannot injure that tree, and yet we cannot remove it. And now, after doing like more investigation of the house, we found that all the utility pipes are broken, and the tree roots are encroaching with these utility pipes, and all of them are old and they need to be replaced. And all of these led to flood in the house, which damaged the structural integrity of the house, which is now beyond repair. The house is flooded, is molded, and it cannot be repaired. All the pipes needs to be replaced, and to try to replace these pipes, we have to remove that tree. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today. I'm sorry? Okay. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kyle Gosson. Is Kyle here? Morning, Kyle. Welcome
Good morning.
to the Etobicoke York Community Council. You've got 5 minutes. Please begin as soon as you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, members of Community Council. I'm a lawyer acting for a representative of 21 Murrie Street. And we're looking, as Ms. Agabani explained, to build a new house at 21 Murrie to replace the existing dilapidated house. We applied to the city to remove the maple tree that is located on the city's right-of-way at the front of the house, and that application was denied by staff. We have permissions for the construction of the new house, including minor variances that were granted by the Committee of Adjustment. The existing one-story house on the property is run down. There are photos that were provided as part of the submission that shows the extensive mold and flooding inside the house, the fact that it is vacant, and there are structural concerns with the house and concerns with the fact that it's now just sitting empty while we are looking to move this application forward and eventually find a solution and build a new house on the lot. The tree on the city's property has a large branch that extends over top of this first story of this house, and that obstructs the location of the second story that would be proposed through the application that was approved by the Committee of Adjustment. And just to give you three fundamental reasons why we are asking that Community Council approve this application. The first one is that there is some concern that demolishing the existing house could cause damage to the tree given the proximity of the house to the city tree. Second, as I mentioned, we cannot build the second story of the proposed house with the tree remaining as is because there's a large branch extending right over top of the existing house. And third, and most importantly, the roots from the city's tree have infiltrated and broken through the sanitary sewer pipe that leads from this house to the city's piping underneath the street on Murrie. We discovered this after the initial tree removal application was submitted to staff and denied. We submitted a video to Councillor Morley's office that showed inside the pipe where you can see the roots encroaching into the pipe and where it is broken. It's possible that the pipe is leaking into the soil, and this is one of the reasons it's critical that it be replaced. According to our engineer, the impact on the pipe from the tree has contributed to backups in the house and to flooding. And in our letter that we submitted to Community Council from this engineer, he says that he highly recommends replacing the underground pipes. So this is something that is going to have to happen in order for this house to be usable. The sanitary sewer pipes will have to be replaced. And this, of course, is something that would occur with the development of the property, and it's something that would be entirely at our client's expense, replacing the pipes that extend from the tree to the city trunk line that have been damaged by the city's tree. Our arborist says that if the tree stays, his report notes that it will require substantial city investment in management measures, such as pruning, support cabling, and augmenting the root system. The city tree is also, as noted, currently causing damage to my client's property and quite possibly the soils underneath this tree. There's concern that this damage could spread. There would certainly, if it was feasible, be a preference to keep a tree in the front yard, but for the reasons that we've given, we request that Community Council approve this application and allow the removal of this tree in the city right-of-way. If approved, we're of course happy to have the approval conditional on the items in the staff report being the standard replacement of 5 trees on site or through cash in lieu, and the appraised value of the tree as a replacement fee.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Dawson. Are there any questions of the speaker? Councillor Nunziata?
So your client went to the Committee of Adjustment and got approval, correct, to condition that a forestry response on that tree, right?
Yes, the standard condition was imposed on the minor variance approval, which is that an application be approved for the tree removal, yes.
So you can't proceed with the Committee of Adjustment application in as long as that tree is there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Manpreet Mona Chona. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Etobicoke York Community Council. You have 5 minutes to speak to council. Please begin as soon as you're ready.
Thank you. I'm the current owner of 21 Murrie, who's worked together with the developer to build this new proposed property on that piece of land. And through the process, we've come to this day where it's looking like it's necessary to remove that tree for any type of viable development to happen on there. Now, on March the 8th, I did write an email to Miss Morley's office expressing some concerns without truly understanding the full picture on how this tree is impacting the build. I will admit I was more focused on the aesthetics. From the outside, this tree is beautiful. It spans over the property, and I had a vision that this tree would be a part of the new home that I was planning for my family. However, I did fail to overlook the practicality of this tree being there and how it's affecting the actual even probability of that home being built on that lot. And when you ask a homeowner, you have a choice now. You can either build your home that you've wanted to build for the last how many number of years, which is now stuck with this tree issue, or you can look at this pretty tree and, be in marvel with it. You kind of want your home, right? The home you've been planning and building and designing with the architects and with everyone else. So through extensive discussions with the developer, with the engineers, with the arborists, with the builder themselves, I've now understand why the tree needs to be removed in order to move forward on this project. We had other issues that were needing to be sorted out, and through the help of our legal teams, we have done that, and I'm satisfied with the outcomes and the resolutions that we have reached. And I'm also pleased with the proposal from TIPS to bring forward 5 new trees, either on site or in the neighborhood. I'm not sure how it works completely, but to bring those 5 trees forward so that at least the environmental impact is mitigated. Whether those trees are on our lot or not, I don't know how that's going to work, but as of right now, I would be pleased with the alternatives that's been provided, and I would like to see council help us build our future home on this lot by allowing the removal of that tree. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions of the speaker? Councillor Nunziata?
So you're the owner of the home, correct?
Yes, correct, along with
How long
my
have you
spouse.
lived at the house?
No, the home has been vacant, so we
Oh, it's been
purchased.
vacant. Oh,
Yes, it's
okay.
been vacant ever since we signed the
Purchased
agreement to build. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Are you aware of the previous owner ever having issues with that tree where they've had to spend money on removing roots or damages to their foundation?
I do know that in February of last year, there was a major flood at the property. Previous owners' dealings with the tree and anything else, I would not know. I do know that in February, there was a big flood at that house, and now the house is even in a worse condition than when we purchased it. And now it's completely engulfed with mold. We can't even go in there without being a health hazard. So it's actually deteriorated since then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, I'll pass the chair. And I wanted to ask just a couple of questions.
Councillor Holiday?
Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about the variances that you received at the Committee of Adjustment? I suspect it might have been a little while ago because I wasn't able to get them up online easily.
Oh, okay. Well, the Committee of Adjustments, I believe it was Layla that could speak on that.
Okay, I can't have Layla come back. Could you just tell me a little bit about what the new house looks like?
Oh, okay. It's a double-story, double-car garage detached property.
Okay.
Anything else?
Do you remember roughly what you asked for? Was it more area, more height?
Compared to what's on there now?
Yeah, compared to what's allowed, just to give me a sense of what the committee gave you beyond what is typical. Was it a bigger house?
Yeah, so I know that it went to Committee of Adjustments because there was a living room that needed to be built over the garage.
Okay.
Which I think with the pre-zoned designs, you don't have that. But when you want the living room above the garage, you have to go to Committee of Adjustments to get that done.
Okay, and just, it's a single detached home, not multiple or apartments or anything?
Nope, just a single detached home for my family.
That's good enough. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just check, are there any other speakers to this particular item? Seeing none. Questions of staff?
Councillor Morley didn't find? Okay. Just to staff, looking, I'm looking at attachment 1 in the report. So it looks like there's a tree across the street and the branch comes across the road, and then another one on another property. Is that's what it looks like in attachment 1?
Yeah, if you
So,
can show it by them.
Because it looks like the one across the street, the branches go right over to this property as well. Am I correct?
But the owner or the applicant is applying for the tree in front of his property. It's just different tree.
I know it's a different tree, but in the picture, it shows like it goes across the road, right? The
Could
one
be
across-
branches across the road, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm just looking at the picture, attachment 1. Okay, that's it.
Deputy Mayor Morley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Max. Thank you for being here today. I just had a couple of questions of clarification from what we've heard from the folks speaking today. Is it true that this property is not developable without removing this tree?
Well, as it is in the report to you, Mr. Chair, in our assessment, that is not true. They can work around. They do not need to widen driveway 5.7 meters, but they can have a smaller driveway on the city road allowance, and they can move around in a private portion of the property. About other issues that for the existing house and sewer pipes and so, that's what's happened with the trees is the opposite. Trees is not that strong to broken the pipes, but because of the aging, using those pipes for a long time, old ones like happen everywhere in Etobicoke, they get broken. That's where the roots of the tree grows because there's water and oxygen there. And still that can be replaced, can open a trench or use torpedo and other things to work on it for the sewers and for the connection. Only issue is that need to be reviewed and assessed is that the part that branch over the house, which they're trying to have, they have a variance on the committee of adjustment, but just moving a little bit, 0.8 meters higher than 7 meters that are allowed. That will be something that should work with the arborist, how far we can go, which part of that branch could be removed. But the builder and the applicant is trying to do their best, for the property, and that's a conflict with the tree. So come to us that before the public hearing committee of adjustment, we have been advised them in writing that urban forestry requires denial and may not issue the permit to remove that street tree. So they get approval and they come back to us. That's why we're in front of the committee council.
Thank you. And just to dig in a little bit more, because this is a common issue in Etobicoke, as you mentioned, in terms of roots and pipes being in conflict. In your experience, it is possible to replace and update pipes, whether they be on the city side or the private side, without necessarily injuring or having to kill the tree. Is that
yes,
fair to say?
That it is possible, and that's happened many times with the developers and builders. And then they can work around. There are ways to work around. They can open the trench by, our speed, or they can use the hand working over there, retain the roots, and still they can do that. They can use torpedo to do that connection as well. There are so many ways they can work around, and we have hundreds of examples working in Etobicoke.
I had one other question, and I apologize. It just escaped me. Do you know how old this tree is?
Well, based on the diameter of the tree should be around 60 to 70
years old.
old.
And my final question, just for clarification, the tree replacement that would be required for potential removal here, the 5 new trees, they would be required to go in on the site. Is that correct?
No, that is on the side, on City Road allowance if it's possible, or that goes to the planting elsewhere in the city. It's not possible to plant 5 trees in front of this property. And even our kind of proposal is they can plant in front of the property, or the owner will be required to pay cash in lieu, $583 per tree, and those trees will be planted elsewhere in the parks or other city road allowance. It's not possible to plant in front of this property.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holiday, questions?
Max, we'll start with you. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. The conflicts I heard were the driveway, so at the surface level with the root system, potentially a conflict with work that needs to be done on service pipes.
Correct.
You mentioned there are ways to deal
Correct.
with that. Are there any other conflicts with the tree? Because the report didn't go into the depth of what conflicts there
Well, the conflict with the trees, the limbs, since it's a big tree
Right.
and the limb is going towards to the house or
Right.
the proposed new house, that will be some conflict that limb requires some pruning in that direction.
So can the tree be cut back to the point that those limbs don't physically conflict with the new building?
I think they can. The tree is, maple tree, and we can do the pruning, even if that is extensive pruning in some degree. We can work around that. But the applicant is taking all of 3 concerns together and saying, you know what, you better just remove the tree, and I work out with the planting.
So does this still result, it's a really big tree, I got a picture of it here. Does this still result in large limbs over top of the new home?
I think we'll resolve that. We have so many limbs going, on top of the roofs of many houses. And there are benefits there too, which, to be honest, is a maintenance as well, right? Many people are complaining because the eaves and leaves and cleaning and stuff, which are open to that. But there are so many trees in Etobicoke going over the houses, even city trees and private trees, which still are providing benefit for that house, reducing the cost and using the whatever they need to do in the house, but still there is some maintenance there. And for city trees, the maintenance is done by forestry operation. It's not required by the property owner.
What diameter are the limbs that are in question?
They didn't go specifically in that, and I'm not sure to say now it's 20 or 25 or something like that.
But large.
Yeah, it is. A big limb going towards to the property means overhanging the existing house, but I think still is workable. We have so many cases, even Toronto Hydro, when they work around. If you go around Royal York and Bloor, you can see so many cases that have been opened the crown or removed the branches, and trees still will provide benefits.
How expensive is it to remove the tree, or would the applicant then have to pay for it?
Yes, that is on the applicant. If the community council support the removal, then applicant will be required to remove the tree with their expenses. Yes. I don't know, basic goes, let's say 3 to 4, but I don't know. I don't know estimates for the arborist, so I'm not sure for that.
So if you take a really big limb or 2 off of one side of the tree, is there not then a requirement to take large limbs off the other side so it doesn't tip over?
Well, that depends on the health condition of the tree. So normally, if we go according to arboriculture standard, we need to have that balance on the tree. But I don't know, it depends how many limbs are on the other side, if they are healthy or not, and depends how much you're going to take from the limbs that going towards to the house.
This is a silver maple?
Yes.
Is silver maple a brittle tree?
Sorry?
Is it a brittle tree? Do the limbs break off often?
We don't see that often. For those trees in this age, we do not see. The tree is 80 years old, 100 years, 120 maybe, but we have so many old trees that have been doing really well, silver maples.
Thank you. I'll just take my last minute. I'll just check with planning. Mr. Mitzi, is there any chance that you have details on the variances and the application for the property? Just some basics.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, I hadn't anticipated.
okay.
However, I do note attached to the agenda is the C of A, I believe, decision.
Oh, it was?
It's
Okay,
on there.
Great. I'll take a look at it.
I
in a
just
second.
happened to
must have
notice
missed it.
that.
I have no further questions of staff, but Councillor Crisandi, before we go ahead, I'm just going to pause for a second. I understand that there is another speaker, and I wanted to check with the committee. If it's the will of the committee, we can vary our procedure, and we can allow the speaker to speak. So, Councillor Crisandi, I'm going to suggest we let the speaker go, and then we still have that chance for questions. So could I have that speaker come forward?
Thank you for making an exception. My name is Earl Rum. I am the individual that lent the mortgage money for Mona and her family to build. I've recently got into what's going on with the tree because we've been trying to put forward this application for quite some time. I know that the builder has been working with urban forestry for quite some time, moving the house around, shifting the driveway. This has gone on anywhere from 6 months to a year. We did apply to, we did a tree report. I believe urban forestry, I should say, I know urban forestry came back and said, you cannot cut the limbs on this tree. We have another report that says we can cut those and other trees. The issue is this: the beautiful tree planted on city property has grown over the years and its roots have grown and they have damaged pipes that connect the house to the street. I'm going to have to really disagree with my friend from urban forestry who believes, I heard him say, I believe or I think, there is no way to fix those pipes through the roots without damaging the tree. If that were the case, we would have got a permit for injury, which was refused. Happy to take a permit for injury, do all the necessary things it is to build the family their home. If something happens to the tree, taking the necessary precautions, we will compensate. I do not agree with my friend over here that you can fix this. It can't be fixed without the attempt that might damage the roots. But if we allow the pipes to stay the way they are, broken, from the house to the street, we cannot repair the house that's in because there's no attachment. We cannot build the second story properly without cutting the limbs and balancing the tree. But for sure, we cannot fix the pipes. We don't want to just fix pipes at the house. You got to fix them from the house down to the street. And there's no telling in time or how much time that bleeding of water that's not going properly anywhere because of pipes affects the street later or any other houses. So we, at our cost, have worked out that we'll go in, replace the pipes, build the home at our cost, take the tree down, compensate the city, and everybody goes forward on a win-win. So I have to really adamantly disagree with my friend that you cannot fix those pipes that are intertwined with the roots of the tree while possibly killing the tree. No one can say that for sure today. So either give us, please, I'm asking, a permit to injure the tree, or let us take us down, fix the pipes, make everybody happy, the street beautiful again. The other issue with the house standing there is we have no way of having vagrants get into that abandoned home or kids play on there and get injured. It's a dangerous situation now. It should be rectified as soon as possible. It's on the city streets. So I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with my friend over here.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions.
I have.
Oh, pardon me.
Oh, I apologize.
We do have one more?
Sorry.
Did you have a question? Okay.
I apologize.
Sure, yeah. Councillor Nunziata?
Okay, just, so you are,
I'm the individual, or
You're
through my company, that's lent the mortgage
the mortgage, not the builder.
to Mona
Okay.
and Scott, their
So,
family.
so the question that I had asked the owner earlier is, and I guess she wasn't aware of it. So what's happened in the past when there's damage from a tree root into a foundation of a house, that is very difficult for the insurance company to cover the damages. You're not aware of any past issues where the former owner could not get house insurance because of the number of damages to the tree roots?
Well, what I am aware of, if I can just touch on is that last year, the connection burst at some point in the pipes, probably close to the house, if not at the house. It flooded. I know the builder went to the insurance company because the bill was something around $17,000 because the water ran for a lengthy period of time. The insurance company would not cover it due to faulty, whatever their explanation was. We managed to get the city to turn the water off so there'd be no more expense or damage or water running all over the place. But there is extensive damage to those pipes, like we've been saying, and I know I'm repetitive, down to the street. And of course, the roots, which the tree was planted on city property, and they grow over time, we understand that, has damaged those pipes. They need to be replaced. So we're happy with a permit to injure and try and do it without hurting the tree. Our recommendation is the tree comes down, we compensate, we replant, and we don't go through an unnecessary ordeal. Thank you.
Hang on. We got more questions.
I know. I keep trying to get out of your way so you can get on.
That's the irony of adding yourself to the list. Now we've got questions. Councilor Crisanti.
Oh, I'm sorry, I know you're trying to get away, but just...
No, I want you...
Going back to some of your original comments, you alluded to the fact that you went back to, or the applicant went back to the drawing board with respect to the driveway to try and get around the tree and accommodate the tree without removal and a couple of times, and that wasn't viable. I believe there's a certain minimum width you need for your driveway in order to be safe to drive in and out. So tell me a bit about that. Is that what you...
My understanding, sir, because I wasn't involved in any of this, but coming in late to try and understand, is that the office, the builder, through Leila, has worked with urban forestry over a lengthy period of time trying to shift the driveway around. I mean, it's a two-car garage. It's going to have a wider driveway. They have worked together without a proper solution to injure the tree, moving the driveway around, I believe possibly shifting the house. The shifting of the house has the issue with the tree branches. The moving the driveway is still going to affect the roots and stuff. My understanding is this tree is of such a large size that the roots sort of have spread across the property. There's no way of entering the property or being on the property with a driveway without creating some damage. And like I said, repetitive again, if we could get which was refused, a permit to injure the tree, we would try and do it. But we've been refused at every sort of angle and option for 6 months to a year on this.
But you get a permit to enter the tree, you may still, at some point, if that doesn't work, have to come back.
We believe we will, that the roots
Ultimately,
are...
I think that's where we're going. Okay.
So we thought, let's take it down, compensate, and hopefully life goes on.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Should I
Councilor
go now?
Crisanti. Hang on. We'll just do a check. All right.
Thank you.
You're free to go. Members, I have, the clerk also brought to my attention there was an additional speaker. With the consent of the committee, we will vary the process to allow an additional speaker. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Next speaker, please. I don't have the name. Good morning. Welcome to the Community Council. Could you just give us your name?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Scott Moody. I'm the homeowner.
Please go ahead. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to share my support in our kind of challenge that we're living here. We currently live at 50 Simpson Avenue, so we're proud constituents of within Etobicoke, and we're very happy to live in Etobicoke. Our challenge is we've just gone through the process of hoping to build our dream home, and we're now in a situation where, you know, it's the original plan or what we felt we were going to be able to do isn't going to be the case, and it's caused a lot of undue stress and hardship to us as a family, and it would be very helpful to us to, you know, I've to have this considered for the tree to be removed. I can't share with you the challenges that we're facing, but it's gone on for quite a while. I understand the process and why. We've actually built a house at 50 Simpson, and we have 2 beautiful trees in front of that house, which we maintained and worked with the same builder in order to do so. Very proud of those trees. However, in my visits of 21 Murrie and the conversations that I've had with even the neighbors, I've met them, they've shared with me that, wow, if they build the house, are they going to get rid of that tree? Because it's so big, right? And it's so frustrating to them, right? So I just wanted to share that. In the end, it's our hope that we can move forward with having our dream home built. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Deputy Mayor Morley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, thank you, Scott, to yourself and your family for being here today and for going through the process as appropriate here. I wanted to ask how you feel if we move forward today with a permit to injure the tree so that your project can proceed, and that you'd be able to trim the branches in question and the things that would compromise the building of your new home, as well as allow for the root and pipe restoration pieces to proceed as well. Does that feel like a compromise you all are willing to accept as part of this process?
Yeah, I think, I'm not an expert in trees. I've read some of the reports and I've seen some of the reports. I just know that, I think the ability to injure the tree is good. However, just in seeing that tree and knowing it, I think that the removal of the tree is going to be the most ideal situation. Definitely would take the injured, but I think the removal of the tree is, as beautiful as it is. I think of a piece of the Maple Leaf Forever tree. Have you ever seen this? Yes. So I have yeah, right. So I remember the sad day that was cut down because I have a piece of that at home, and we're definitely ones that we've did our due diligence in kind of keeping the trees in our other home. The best case scenario would be to have that ability to remove the tree, just because it would allow us to proceed with the home that we want, and we would do everything in our power to maintain the integrity of the home and the trees. And I understand the importance of forestry. Right? We've done that in our current home, and as a proud citizen of Etobicoke, I'd like to really appeal for your support on that. So,
thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Councillor Crisanti.
So I just need to clarify, if it goes down the road of a permit to enter the tree, I mean, is the tree, I want to be clear, in the way of you being able to put in a proper, safe driveway. You're building a 2-story home, 2 garages, correct?
Correct, yeah.
All right, so you need a wide enough driveway.
Correct.
My understanding is, and I could check with staff, that the width of the driveway legally should be 6.3 meters.
Correct.
Are you able to do 6.3 meters if the tree stays?
I don't believe so, based on my understanding, right? I think that the way, even the aesthetics of the home and outside of aesthetics, practicality, the ability to I don't think that would be feasible based on those. I think the biggest challenge is the roots and the way in which it's kind of clustered itself in front of the home.
Right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We are going to go back to questions of staff, and then I'm going to propose we hold the item down to get the revised motion. Councillor Crisanti, before we broke to the speakers, I think you had a questions of staff. Do you still have those?
Well, same question to staff. So
Okay.
What is the legal width of a driveway in a single family?
Maybe
yeah, before
Mr.
Max. Maybe
Nicolusci.
that first.
Through the chair, Councillor, to answer your question, the legal width of a driveway depend.
For a double garage.
Yes, for a double garage, the legal width of a driveway for any single-family home is dependent upon the lot frontage, generally speaking. That said, Transportation Services typically accepts a driveway width that is as wide as the garage. So if it's a 2-car garage, then that typically means 5 to 6 meters, or whatever the actual width of the garage is. There may be variances triggered for that, because again, from a zoning perspective, the width of the driveway is dependent on the width of the lot.
Okay. Well, I always thought it was 6. So I don't believe you can get. And now, if you're going to have a double car garage, 5 meters will not accommodate a double-car garage.
Through the chair, yes, I think you're correct. Typically, the width for the width for a driveway for a double car garage is 6 meters.
Correct.
Yeah.
Unless you have two little Fiat 500s. You know,
They may, but we have to consider the worst case scenario, right?
all right. Or a Vespa. So, again, in this particular application, what have they submitted for the driveway? Are you aware of the width of the driveway that's currently on the application?
Unfortunately, through the chair, I don't recall what the width of the driveway proposal is for this particular site. There's no variances as far as I'm aware for driveway width.
Okay. All
So
right.
whatever driveway is proposed, it complies with the bylaw requirements.
All right, thank you. That's fine.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff before we set down the item? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thank you. This one's for our forestry department. Can you just talk us through, so everyone's crystal clear about the permit to injure? What does that include? And in your estimation, Max, having gone back and forth, your department and the applicant on this one, is it feasible for the dream home of our residents here to be erected with an permit to injure the tree?
Well, first of all, I don't have details of the proposed injury, but 3 things that need to mention, and the applicant indicated, and transportation said. First, the impact is the driveway. So if the beam to approve the driveway around 6 meters, that tree is gone. It's no way to retain the tree. Because they have to dig, they have to go very close to the trunk of the tree, so tree is gone. For the root injury about the pipes, it's a way to do it, have been done many times. Same thing is possible for the limb towards to the house. So that's what is the situation. And without having those details in the map and distances from the trunk, we cannot say yes or no for injury.
Mm-hmm.
But if the driveway is going to be 6 meters wide, which they're proposing around, if I'm not mistaken, 575 something, then the tree is gone. There's no way to retain the tree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Seeing none, members, I'm going to suggest that we set this item down, give Deputy Mayor Morley an opportunity to craft the motion that she needs to craft. And I'm also just going to deal with an order matter. Deputy Mayor Morley has a motion to introduce. If we could introduce that item, that would be great. Get it on the agenda. I suspect we may have some correspondence on it.
Thank you, Mr.
Perhaps
Chair.
even some speakers. Okay, all those in favor to introduce the item on the review of existing Islington Village policies and guidelines, all those in favor? Any opposed? That item is carried and has been added to the agenda. So there are 3 items that will become the 4th of what's left. So just as a reminder, EY 13.5, 21 Murrie Street application to remove a city tree has just been set down on the order. We'll come back to that towards the end. Our next item, therefore, is EY 13.6, 31 Clearside Place, application to remove a private tree. We have a speaker, and that is Christopher Smith. Hi, Christopher. Welcome to the Etobicoke York Community Council. I think you were online last time, and this time you are here in person. You've got 5 minutes to speak to the Community Council. Please go ahead as soon as you're ready.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. And I was actually here in person last time, and I'm just here to answer any questions if there are any. That's.
I will take the opportunity to ask a couple of questions. I'll pass the chair over to Vice Chair Parizza.
Please, proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, thanks for coming. I know it's correct, or you can tell my colleagues yes or no, but we had a chance to go and visit, and I could see your home. Would it be fair to say that you've got a tree that's growing really close to the edge of your home, and the sidewalk is tilting, the branches are going into the house, and you've got a number of concerns, practical maintenance concerns?
That sums it up correctly, yes.
Okay. And, one of the questions that was lingering at the last meeting was that the tree appeared to be a borderline tree. That is, you share the tree with your neighbor. Could you tell the community council since then what conversations you've had with your neighbor about this tree?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I didn't do a great enough job previously to present their support of this application, but I believe that they've written a letter to the city councilor or council's desk, city's clerk's desk, to confirm their support of the application. And then you were so kind to come out to check out the house, and we spoke to our neighbor, Judy, and I gave full blessing as well in person. And then again, I hope she wrote that email. I believe she did.
I think so. You live in the part of the Etobicoke called Markland Wood.
Correct.
And it doesn't come by the name Markland Wood for nothing.
100%.
So would it be fair to say that you live in a community that is very well treed, and that's because people value the trees?
Yes, I would agree with that. Like the views are great.
Do you have other trees on your property?
Many.
And you are on a creek ravine?
Correct.
And what did your neighbors say when you let them know that the tree had to come down?
So my direct neighbor, the borderline neighbor, or
just in general, your conversations.
That's true. So when we were there, basically when we just recently moved to this house, we were proud of Etobicokeans before, but as soon as I moved in, several of my neighbors were like, so what about that tree? I'm like, I'm glad that you agree. And it was like a main sticking point between my wife and I when we purchased the property. I was like, this tree is going to be a problem, I believe, just based on the way it's built. So I have not had any negative comments or concerns from any neighbors. In fact, most of them are like, you should be doing something about this. So
thanks for speaking to the community council. Are there any other questions? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Questions of staff by anyone? Seeing none, I'll speak then very briefly. I'll pass the chair to the vice chair. Madam Clerk, I'm going to present the alternate recommendations, which is to grant removal with replacement. And I will also ask, once the motion is up, I have a photo to share with my colleagues. So this is to approve the request to remove the privately owned tree at 31 Clearside Place and to provide the replacement trees as suggested in the report. And if I can just have the clerk show the photo. So members, you'll recognize that smiling face there. That would be me. I want you to know that this wasn't taken lightly and that I attended the property to have a look. And it is Markland Wood. It is a beautiful part of the city, and the trees are valuable. They are important. There's some other pictures you can have from Street View. I can show you them on my phone, but this was the most powerful. It is indeed a very large tree that is growing literally between the two houses. You can see it's the width of the walkway. I mean, I don't know how you'd fit a wheelbarrow through there if you had to get into the backyard. But I could touch the wall and touch the tree, and the picture doesn't do it justice, but the sidewalk is quite tilted. That's not to say that, that repairs couldn't be made, but the concrete is tilting towards the house. And so, it just came to mind that sometimes trees get planted decades ago with all of the best intentions between properties, and they grow and they grow and they grow. And in this case, the tree is just a leap from the balcony area above, and the branches are just inches from the chimney of the neighbor's house. It is very, very tight. And, I understand the practical reason why the owner is requesting to remove it. This is not an area where this is the only tree. It is abundant in and around it. And I believe that community council should exercise discretion from time to time. And I just think that this picture tells the story very, very well. So I hope you'll support my motion to grant removal of the tree. I believe that this owner values the tree and values the other trees, but sometimes in order to look after the property, you've got to do what is necessary. So with that, anyone else wishing to speak? Oh, yeah, snow removal. Yes, absolutely. With that, I will call a vote, unless anyone else wants to speak. Okay. So all those in favor on the amendment, any opposed, that item carries. Okay. Well, that item is done. Thank you. So I believe that we are prepared to go back to item 5 that we just set down. Councillor Deputy Mayor Morley has made some arrangements for a motion, so Deputy Mayor Morley to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just want to start by saying thank you to the homeowners and the applicants, their team, and the architects, and the lender as well for speaking here today. This one was really tough for us. I have been on record of declining tree removal applications in this community for redevelopment, and tasked the owners at that time to go back to the drawing board and to figure out how to work within a footprint that would allow for our mature trees to continue. As you know, as proud Etobicoke residents, our tree canopy and sort of the characteristics that trees bring to our neighborhood, in addition to the important environmental impacts, are really, really critical, and it's something that I feel very strongly about. So I don't come to this decision lightly, but I do appreciate the effort, the time, the energy, and the vision that you have for your property, and the need to move forward in a good way. While I had initially thought about the injury permit, I think, as was mentioned and as Scott said in his reply, it really is the ideal way forward. And as we heard clearly from our forestry staff, injury would likely result in, detrimental impacts to the tree, which would require it to come out. And we don't want to, have you doing extra work. We appreciate your consideration and the replacement tree piece. So we will be moving forward with the alternative recommendations in this report to approve the request for the permit to remove one city-owned tree located at 21 Murrie Street, and of course with the provisions that come along with it, including the appraised tree value, the replacement trees, and the tree being removed at the owner's expense. Hopefully you can find a good way to recycle, reuse, reduce, whatever, I don't know what they do with trees once they come down. But, we want to make the best use of that. And of course, required tree planting security deposit to cover the cost for the replacement trees. So again, I do deeply appreciate the engagement and the back and forth that the team has done with the city to try to come to a good result here. We do want to make sure that you can move in and have your dream home and raise your family in our community. So thank you for your efforts and your patience, and that's my motion.
Thank you. Any questions of the mover? Anyone else wishing to speak on Deputy Mayor Morley's amendment? All those in favor? Any opposed? And that item carries. So the next item is EY 13.758 Tallon Road, application to remove 2 private trees. I will check, are there any speakers on this item? Okay, I'll speak then, unless somebody else wants to. I'm just going to move deferral the next day with a brief explanation, and this is important. Members, you'll remember last meeting, we had Mr. Smith before us, just the last tree that we dealt with, and we had this one. And I had asked both the applicants if they could get in touch with me so that I had a chance to see the trees and to talk to the homeowners about what it was that they were hoping to achieve. And I heard from Mr. Smith, but I didn't, and I had a chance to go and see, but I didn't hear from the applicants at this location, which makes it very, very hard to conduct the due diligence that you, the community council, would expect me to do, and to provide you the best advice I can about the situation. So I'm going to defer this one more month. We'll see what happens, and then I guess we'll deal with it then. But I think hopefully there's been no misunderstanding, and this item can just be set down for now. So all those in favor of the deferral, any opposed, that item carries. We have 2 more items. We have a fence application, and we have the item that was added. So we're going to go to EY 13.8, which is 301 Rockcliffe Court, also 20 Rockcliffe Court. A request for fence exemption to the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 447 in Ward 5. And we have a speaker that is Lucas Calendra, and Lucas apparently is online. Okay, Lucas is not available. So we'll just check, is there anyone else wishing to speak to this item? Seeing none, we will go to questions of staff. Councillor Nunziata.
Just question to staff. Who's here? Is anybody here? Oh, okay. Okay, so the applicant had asked that we defer it to the last meeting to work with staff. So what's happened? Because I haven't heard from the applicant.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so first of all, good morning. My name is Chantel. I'm one of the acting supervisors with the West District Investigation Services at Municipal Licensing and Standards. I'm here on behalf of the other supervisor, Lisa Caranci. As far as I know, we haven't really had too much involvement in this. It's more a TRCA and the applicant that are going back and forth. I haven't had any communication with the applicant. As far as I know, I was here at last community council. They wanted to defer it to this meeting, but as far as I know, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, I haven't had any communication either.
Any questions
Okay.
of staff from anyone else?
No.
Thank you very much, Chantal. Councillor Nunziata.
So I will move the staff recommendation to refuse.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. And we are on to our last item. Members, because this was added during the agenda, I will point out that there are a number of communications from the public that have been filed. Thank you to the clerk's staff for that. And we have two speakers registered to the item who have been sitting patiently. So our first speaker is Carolyn McGee. Welcome to the Etobicoke York Community Council, Carolyn. You've got 5 minutes to speak to us. Please go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Is that the right level?
Yep, pretty good.
Is that better? Oh,
yep, good.
Bit much. Hello. The crowd has thinned out.
Yes.
Saving the best for last, perhaps. I'm speaking on behalf of the Islington Ratepayers and Residents Association as their president. We are affectionately known as the IRRA. The IRRA is strongly in favor of the motion to direct city planning staff to conduct a scoped review of Islington Village policies and guidelines, identify opportunities for placemaking, and recommend policy or guideline updates to better maintain the village character. Just for context, in March of 2023, the IRRA constituted a subcommittee to create retail design guidelines that could proactively inform and influence present and future developers about the character of Islington Village. Stakeholder consultations and a community-wide survey resulted in the recent publishing of the subcommittee's community engagement report. The report conveys the community's hope of rebuilding Islington Village as a place to walk to shops, meet friends, access services, dine out, and come together as a community on the village's historic main street. With the current thrust to create more housing fast, and given the massive development coming to our community, there's urgency to set some standards to ensure smart development, where developers respect and enhance the quality of life on historic Islington Village's main street. This motion addresses the concerns of our community, and the timing is critical. Thank you so much, Councillor Holliday and Councillor Morley, for your leadership on this matter. We look forward to a positive decision on the motion here today and subsequently at Toronto Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there questions of the speaker?
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Stephanie Alexander.
Hello. I'm speaking here. I'm a resident of the area. I live about a 10-minute walk from the village on Jopling Avenue North. And I'm the person who kicked off the retail subcommittee study because living in the area, I became concerned about what was happening to the village. It's the reason I chose my home, was to give me a 10-minute walk so I could walk to shop. And that's really valuable to me and my family. So I am strongly in favor of this motion. The historic village of Islington for 225 years has provided our community with a sense of place. This is what makes our physical surroundings and the people living there worth caring about. This sense of place is created from the character of our village. It's unique. We live in Islington Village, and the retail main street is our core as a community, a place where people meet, dine, and shop for their everyday needs. Current policies and plans do not meet the needs of our community's future. The current political climate is permitting the approval of soulless buildings, some in landmark locations in our village, that are devoid of village character. We do not oppose development, but let's remember we are doing more than building housing. We are building community. Placemaking and character are essential in building a sense of community. A total of 15,428 residential units will be built in Islington Village. There will be 3,210 public housing units, 718 seniors units, 11,500 rental or condominium units. This means possibly 40 new thousand people will be added to our community. We want them to be part of our community, to feel they belong as we do. Main Street's character is essential as an anchor in our community. It gives us a sense of place every day. We need to focus on the future and think about what builds community and how we can do it best in Islington Village. I encourage the council to pass this motion. A study would articulate a clear vision for our community and secure for our community members a sense of place for into the future for everyone who lives there now and for our future new residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. I wanted to ask a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Questions?
I let Ms. McGee off the hook, and I shouldn't have, but I'll pass the chair over to the vice chair. Can you tell the committee what attracts people to the Islington Village? Some of us know it well, some do not.
Okay.
Why is there so much passion among the community to see what we've got before us?
I think when you start to live in the neighborhood, you connect to the village because it's somewhere where you get to know the retailers. So I know the lady who runs the Islington Village European Pastry Shop. I know the owner of the Galata Turkish restaurant. When I go in there, they know me. We know our favorite pub. It's a community drop-in. People are there all the time. It's also very culturally diverse. We have 200 businesses in that village, and I would say that the majority of them are owned by new Canadians, people's dreams in that village. They raise their families on them. It's a special place because you can walk to it, which is really handy. It's easy. The shopping that's there meets my daily needs, and I think it does for most of the people in the community.
This is in a piece of the city that is very old. And I wondered if you could tell the council, just a touch on some of the history in this area and what you see in terms of protections for that, our heritage, actually.
It is. It's a huge part of the heritage of Toronto. There's 27 murals in our community that depict the historic events. So along Dundas is where you have Battersby's Battalion that first was striking out to protect our original capital town city down the Niagara area. And the Dundas Road was forged through to move those soldiers. The Montgomery Inn was the first watering hole in our community. It's about 185 years old as well. It's historic because it was also a farming community, and I don't think many people know it was the center of growing celery. It was famous for it. Apple orchards, the Eaton's farms, the Loblaws family, the Johnson family that first struck out there and settled and built 4 original homes, all of which are still standing in our community. There's a lot of history in our area, and I think it's something that we celebrate in our murals. But I think the people who live there also know it, and we hope that new residents, if we design that main street with some character, the buildings that we're getting don't have character. They don't consider our history. They're just putting in slab concrete buildings that are cheap, quick, but they don't have to be expensive to build something with character. They just have to think about what the community has. We have historic buildings in our village. It'd be lovely if they could take a look at those when they build them and think about creating a great pedestrian retail environment that we all want to walk and shop. It's green, we won't need cars. It's what the city's pushing for. It makes so much sense to put in some policies that give the urban planners some tools to create great buildings. We don't oppose development. We just want a community that is walkable and green and maintains our character and our community.
So the Montgomery's Inn is a city museum. Would you say that residents are expecting the Islington Village to be a museum? Or is it something a little bit more dynamic?
No, it's far more lively than that. We don't, we're not, envisioning restricting builders to create some sort of a museum community. We're not Niagara on the Lake, we get that. But what we do want is buildings that make sense for our community. Yes, we're historic, but you can still, maintain that history and character. And as I said, that's where you get a sense of place. And we are getting 40,000 people just in the village. Let's not forget about the towers that are extending down along Dundas and further out. We want those people to be feeling like they're part of a community as well. And this is where it is in Islington Village. And I think we can build something with sensible building, with a sensible pedestrian scale on Main Street, and come up with plans that identify it as our Main Street. And it'll make a difference.
So would it be fair to say Islington Village has been around for about 200 years, and it has been serving the community because of what it provides?
Absolutely.
And really, your hope is that it be around for another 200 years.
Yeah, we're not building a city to last for 50 years. That's for sure. We want to think about the future. So you need to plan for that. And we want to keep it as our core in Etobicoke. It is unique in central Etobicoke what we have. And that preservation is really vital for the next 200 years. I've been there only for 30, but some of my neighbors' families have been there for 150 years.
Thank you so much. Any other questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
I will ask if there's any questions of staff. Oh, I apologize. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We did have a speaker join us. That is Adam Rogers, and Adam is online. Adam, welcome to the Etobicoke York Community Council. It's Stephen Holliday, the chair. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Adam, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So I was watching along online, and I saw this item come up, and since this is my neighborhood, I wanted to speak to it directly. I'll keep this very short. I highly support this. I've grown up in this area. I live in this area. I live in the Michael Power buildings, which, to speak to the vibrancy, I take my my daughter to the Humber. Sorry, there's no background feedback from my mic, is there?
It's okay. We can hear you loud and clear. It's good.
Okay, perfect. No problem. No problem. So I take my my daughter to the Michael Power place, and to speak of the diversity, there's children and parents from all different walks of life. They're there at the park every day. It's a wonderful community, a wonderful area. But there is a troubling trend, and I think that the ratepayer spoke to it personally. Is that there is we need more. We need more development. That's completely understandable, and I think we all agree that housing is essential for people coming to the area. But there is some great concern about how these developments come in and how they speak to the community as well. And I know this is in line with this very specific development that's coming in along where the Rexall location is. But I would be remiss if I did not bring up a development that I just heard of that came through that I wanted to highlight. 4875 Dundas Street West is a rental building that has been there for more than 30 plus years. There's a plan to tear that down. Obviously, all those current renters will unfortunately have to go somewhere else and build a 45-floor condo. Now, I understand there's ways to go about this, but it is deeply concerning for the long-term renters in that area. And I hope this is considered in this planning about how we treat both our homeowners and our renters. And this unit, to speak to it very quickly, I'll be very brief, was just recently renovated in a very positive way. And I think anyone knows the location. This is right beside the Rabba. They really did a great job on improving the condition of this site. So I think this wraps perfectly into this process, is this current development that's planned. This is one of the first sort of demo evictions, as they call, in Islington Village that I can think of in my lifetime. I've lived here for over 30 years, both a little further north of here and currently there. So I hope this gets tied into this whole development. Not only do we consider about like the general plan of this neighborhood, but also how we treat our renters, because as we know, losing your home is devastating for all folks. Anyway, I think the other folks already spoke to it as well. I just wanted to bring that issue, and I can say that I think all residents of the area, the people, not just on the immediate Islington Village, but on the renters in the neighboring streets, we've been doing some great improvements, especially in the Maybell area. I think we just wrap this all together and consider this. All right, I'll leave it at that. I'll stay online for a second if there's any questions, but other than that, I just wanted to voice this because it literally just came across to my attention a couple days ago.
Thank you, Adam. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us. I will ask my colleagues if there are questions of staff. Seeing none. Members wishing to speak. Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the deputants for joining us today and for their leadership and engagement in community building in the Islington Village area. I also want to thank my colleague, our chair, Councillor Holliday, for his collaboration and support on the motion before you today. As you heard, we are really undergoing a lot of change in this community, and there is a unique opportunity with the long-standing history of Islington Village that is rich and that is really meaningful for us to ensure that as the community continues to grow up around this established neighborhood, it can grow up in a good way that's supportive of both existing residents and their usage of the neighborhood, walkability, etc., but as well as placemaking for new residents so that they can be exposed to and hopefully deeply appreciate all of the incredible history and characteristics of this community. As we navigate new legislation and new targets and goals related to our housing, as we heard about, we do need to continue to make sure we're doing this in a good way. And I think about communities that have grown up what feels like overnight, and I could point to Humber Bay Shores. And we hear often about the lack of sort of placemaking and the lack of community sense that's there, despite the thousands and thousands of residents. And in that case, the history of that neighborhood being a former motel strip did not lend itself, necessarily to the rich, again, characteristics and established residents and history that we have here in Islington Village. So we really want to ensure we're taking advantage of this opportunity to move planning and city building forward in a good way, and really honoring the rich history of this community and the residents that live there. So really excited about moving this work forward. And again, our thanks to the local residents who've been really driving this opportunity and providing good leadership. We look forward to convening lots more conversations and supporting our colleagues at City Planning to hold space and to make sure that we are creating policies and opportunities to maximize placemaking as this community does continue to grow up. We heard 16,000 new units coming in. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to quickly address Mr. Rogers related to the address 4875. This one's new on my radar. I'll dig into it with my team, but I did just want to reassure the city has very strong and stringent bylaws related to rental replacement, especially if it's any 4 units or larger. And so that would absolutely apply to the application you mentioned and any others, and we work really hard to ensure that that is the case. So we'll take that one offline, and thank you for the flag. Those are all my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And if I may, I would love to just add a couple of my own, so I'll pass the chair.
Councillor Holliday.
I am really excited about this, but you know who's even more excited is the community. in a good way, right? I think you can just see the evidence today, a couple people coming before us on an item. The letters are coming in, they're populating our system with many people that have a lot to say, including even residents associations that are beyond even the immediate community. And that's because Islington Village is connected more than just the little line on the map of whether it's the village BIA or the secondary plan. It's important to Etobicoke and to the west end of the city, and I will argue the history of this area is of national importance. It is part of the formation of who we are as a country, as Canada, and it is a formation of our history. And, I won't fill a lecture on that because it's easy to look it up. But it is very much an important place. But there may be history there, but there's also utility. So we're growing as a city, and we've identified the Etobicoke Center as a growth node in this city. And there are lots of buildings coming in, lots of change. But you can't have a successful community unless you've got the shops, the services, the points of cultural interest that actually make it a thriving community. Then it becomes soulless. And this is an opportunity to keep the soul back in the heart of Etobicoke. And I think that's why it's got people so excited. And, it is time to take a look at some of the policies that we have on the books and enhance them just a little bit more. And it's not a reopening of the whole plan, but it's a specific look at Islington Village. And I asked about some of the historical points of interest. And in fact, I think there's a whole bunch of candidate locations that require a deeper look for historical significance because they speak to who we are as a city. So I really look forward to this work. I look forward to helping in any way that I can. I know the community is looking forward to being involved. And I just make an opening expression of appreciation to the staff, the Toronto Public Service, who will be tasked with preparing this policy work and steering it through the process. But I hope this policy work, even at this point, at this spark, will start to have influence on the active changes that are underway in this part of the city. So with that, I hope everybody supports it. And I will ask if there's anyone else wishing to speak. Seeing none. On the item, all those in favor? Any opposed? And that item carries. Members, it was brought to my attention by the clerk that the speaker for EY 13.8 has become connected. And so I propose to reopen the item to allow the deputant to speak. So we're going to go to EY 13.8, 301 Rockcliffe Court, 20 Rockcliffe Court, request for offense exemption to the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 447. Motion to reopen. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. We will go to speakers by the public on this item. Our speaker is Lucas Calendra, who is available by video. Hello, Lucas. We can see you. Can you hear us? It's Stephen Holliday, the chair.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. You've got 5 minutes to speak to the committee. Please begin as soon as you're ready.
Thank you very much, members of the council. Yes, over the past month, we have been working with our local contractor to make changes to the proposed fence. With this, we have a couple solutions that we'd also like to work with Toronto staff on. The origins for this fence exemption were brought up only by recommendation. There was no report. There's no official report made from Toronto staff. In our certificate of property use, we did note that there's contamination in the land, so we did want to ensure that, of course, the property was protected. And also, we noticed multiple other instances of the same example of fence. So we did think that the fence would not have been an issue at the time, especially with the contractors. Yeah, because of this, we are asking for a further deferral. That way, we can work with Toronto staff a little more closely and find a potential solution. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker?
Well, yeah.
Professor
So
Nunziata.
why would you want to defer it again? Just refuse the fence exemption and then work with city staff on what needs to be done.
Because we still believe that an exemption would be beneficial, especially for the contaminated land. So if we properly have the land secured, then it would be beneficial to public safety as well as security-wise too for the property. So ideally, we still would like and prefer a fence exemption on this.
Also, no.
Any questions from any other members of the committee? Seeing none. Lucas, thank you for joining us. We're going to bring this back into committee.
So staff has left, so I mean, I don't know why we would defer it again. There were conditions from staff on the fence exemption. I was hoping that they would meet with staff and reduce whatever had to be reduced on that fence exemption. So I don't believe that land being contaminated has nothing to do with the fence exemption. So I will move refusal.
Councillor Nunziata adopts the recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. Madam Clerk, that is our last item of business, with the exception of bills. May I have someone move the first motion?
Happy to do so, Mr. Chair. I move that
Member
bills 431 to 433, prepared for May 13, 2024, meeting 13 of the Etobicoke York Community Council, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to Section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Madam Clerk, one more. May I have a second volunteer? Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move that confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Etobicoke York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 13 on May 13th, 2024, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to Section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That item is carried. That's the last item. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Lucy. How are you? Lorna, welcome back. Hey, how are you? How's it going?
Bye, everyone. Thank you.